everyone, Alexa Donne here, and today I am giving you my best submission survival tips. If you watched my What is Submission video, some of these might sound familiar, and I think I've actually probably also mentioned these things or variations of these things in other videos, but here they are for you. The things that you should do because submission honestly kind of sucks. It's tough. So my number one tip is to not talk about submission publicly. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but submission is like Fight Club, and so you shouldn't talk openly about Fight Club. This is mostly to protect yourself because submission does unearth really raw feelings, and airing it publicly and especially never ever ever name check, say, an editor or a publisher for rejecting you. So don't talk about it publicly. That is also a quick way to piss off your agent and make a very bad name for yourself in the industry. So don't talk about it publicly. But to that end, my next tip is to find your people. You need friends. The only way to get through submission is to find other authors who are either going through it at the same time or who have been through what you have been through and can kind of commiserate with you. Now, there's a caveat to finding authors who are currently on submission at the same time. Well, the first one being, it can be really hard. It can be surprisingly challenging. I feel like I know a lot of people. I have a lot of friends. I know a lot of different authors. But when I went on submission with Brightly Burning last fall, I actually didn't really have any friends who were going on submission at that time except for one. And I posted on some spaces where I do know other authors, and I didn't really find anyone who was in the same, excuse me. And I didn't really find anyone who was in the same place as me, who was going on submission at the same time with a similar book, no one I could really talk to. Kind of as I went through submission, I did find some other people. It was actually really cool. Someone messaged me on Reddit, and now we're friends, and she sold her book too, and so it's just really nice. We're debuting together. But you should look for people that you can talk to. The second caveat here is that you do need to be careful and wary of jealousy. Again, submission is an incredibly emotional experience, and especially when things are not going well, you will almost never feel worse. The only other time I have felt worse than when submission wasn't going well was when I was between agents and I had to shelve a book. That was dark. Submission got really close though, because you're so close to achieving your dream, and then rejections roll in, or it takes a really long time, or you might have to give up on this book and try again, and it can be really soul crushing. And if you are in a community and friends with people who have a less than average submission experience, if you know a unicorn, someone who sells in 24 hours or 2 weeks, or even, anyone who sells kind of in the first 8 weeks of submission is doing pretty well for themselves. And I have noticed also that people who sell in those timelines tend to get really big splashy deals. They're more likely to get a preempt or an auction. And you can kind of just feel really down in the dumps when you're playing the comparison game. Generally, don't play the comparison game, and that's just good advice in general for being an author and being friends with authors. But I'm not a total Susie Sunshine. The reality is that we all do it. We all play the comparison game, and we are prone to jealousy. This doesn't mean don't be friends with people, and in fact, my real advice is to learn to deal with jealousy. When someone that when something really fabulous happens to them, even if you're sad for yourself that, it's not happening for me, feel your feelings. The first couple hours can be really raw, but you should always focus on kind of a core of happiness for that person. You are positively focused, and you stay as optimistic as you can and aren't a bitter Betty. You'll feel better, you'll maintain friendships, you'll have better relationships with people. But I'm warning you that you can end up feeling jealous. My next tip is to find the rejection/response style that works best for you. I covered this in the What is Submission video, and that is that you get to decide with your agent how you are going to receive responses while you're on submission. I will tell you that personally, I like to read my rejections. I like to read them when they come in. I like to read them verbatim. I like to know who they are from. This is a processing style for me. I it helps me. I need to know. Not knowing will drive me crazy. And I think I've become really accustomed to criticism over the years. And I like to see the rejections also because it helps me know what to focus on. And it's always helpful. The rejections I got at querying stage helped me revise before I went on submission. The rejections I got from my first round of submission helped me revise between rounds, which then I ended up selling the book. So this helps me. There are people, it doesn't help them at all. Seeing the rejections, reading them, it's too much. It hurts too much, and it actually derails you. You're not able to focus on anything else, on a new project, on revision. You just wallow. Tell your agent not to send you the rejections. You can have them tell you when you're rejected, so that you're not like not hearing anything from them for months and months. But you don't have to read your rejections. It's totally up to you. So find that style that is going to work for you. My next tip is to distract yourself with real life stuff. Writers, we spend a lot of time kind of in our own heads, and we pour a lot of time into these books, and then your book baby is going to editors, and your dreams will either come true or be totally crushed, and yeah, go outside. See your friends. See the friends you've been ignoring while you've been working on your book. Plan a night out with your girlfriends or your guy friends. Go see a movie. Marathon a TV show that you've been putting off. Go to a theme park. Take a vacation. Do things that you enjoy that are welcome distractions and that will refill your well, both creatively and emotionally. And if you have stuff going on in your life that you enjoy and things to look forward to, when you do get those rejections, you're not kind of flailing in the dark by yourself. You have, people that you can talk to and things that you can do and kind of a routine. And speaking of distracting yourself, the big tip that everyone tells you, and I'm going to repeat it, this is the same tip it goes for when you're querying too. When you're on submission, you should work on something new. This is easier said than done. I am giving you advice that I did not follow. While I was on submission, I did work on a project. I NaNoWriMo'd and I got about 20,000 words of a fantasy project, but honestly, I didn't do that much writing while I was on submission, and part of that was you do need to use your best judgment. If you're on submission and you're getting the sense that you're probably going to have to revise your book between rounds, you might not want to fall down the total rabbit hole of a new creative project. If you're anything like me, I kind of have modes for my books, and I need to get into certain mindsets and feelings, and I need a tonal vibe. Creativity is weird. And so I actually didn't want to totally throw myself into a new book at a certain point on submission because I knew I was going to have to revise Brightly Burning, and I wanted to keep my head kind of in that space. That is okay. That said, when you are looking at longer submission, when you go past the 6-month mark, I beg you, work on something new. It's distracting, but mostly it gives you hope. If things don't go well, you have the next project to put on submission. And it's never nice to have a book fail, so to speak. You're never a failure. It's not nice to have to shelve something. It's not nice to feel that way. But if you have something in your back pocket, the silver lining is going to be the balm that maybe takes the edge off is, but it's okay because I have this thing and my agent's excited about it and we're going to go on submission with a new project. So work on something new. Keep that spark of hope alive. Now, if it's not going well, this brings me to, what do? Talk to your agent. And I wouldn't do this too early. When I say if it's not going well, this is past the 6-month mark, or if you've been out to, I'd say, 15 or more editors and they've all said no. You have a conversation. Hey, agent, what do you think? What's your professional opinion? Because they are professionals and they go on submission with a ton of books and they have a lot more experience in this than you do. Ask them, what's your sense from the rejections? What are the patterns that you see? What's the game plan? Are we going to revise between rounds? Who do you have in mind for a second round? Or, I have this other project. What do you think of this project? Do you think we should close out this book and put the next thing on sub? Have that strategic conversation with your agent. That is what they're there for, and you are business partners. Essentially, this ties into the write something else advice. If you have a strategy and a way forward, you can get through even the lowest moments of submission. Now here's the sticky part. What if you think the problem on submission is your agent? This does happen, especially if you've been on submission, either many rounds of submission, or more importantly, multiple books. If this is your second or third book that has been on submission with an agent, and you just never get any closer to a book deal, you have to have a frank kind of soul searching with yourself and a discussion. You need to ask, well, is it my projects? Are my projects really niche and special and it's just going to take a while to get there? Or is it my agent? If you think it's your agent, well, I do encourage talking to other authors. This is again where it's just very critical to have a community of writers and authors, because you can have those like check moments. The am I crazy check is talking to other authors and getting a sense of what their relationships with their agents are like, what's a norm for them. Especially if you do have friends who have sold, you can ask them questions about their submission experiences and what it's like to work with their agent to gauge whether something's off with your agent. I would like to note that sometimes it really is just the market. You can be with a good agent who is doing their job and it just might not work out because of the market. It's the wrong timing, it's the wrong moment, or it is bad luck. That said, go with your gut feeling. Don't ignore patterns. If it is multiple books, or if you feel like your agent isn't following up with editors, or they're lying to you, which that's tough. You're definitely going to have a conversation with your agent. That is the hard part. I think especially so many authors, we're introverted and we hate confrontation, and no one wants to have that awkward conversation. But you do need to actually talk to your agent if you are having concerns. Go in with the best of intentions. Like, go in assuming the best. But ask them straightforward questions like, when is the last time you followed up? You know, we haven't heard from all of these editors. Do these editors normally ghost people? You can even say, I've talked to friends, and, you know, this thing that is happening or you have done, it doesn't seem like a professional norm for me. Will you explain this to me? And you may even need to say, like, I'm not feeling happy or comfortable in this relationship. I need you to work on XYZ. And, you know, if things don't go well, we may need to part ways, you know, close out submission. And when that happens, I'm going to need the submission list, so on and so forth. And this brings me to, if you do think it is your agent, you need to check your contracts that you signed. You need to check the contract terms. There's almost always a clause that says that you cannot go on submission with the book that you were with your agent for within, you know, you're not allowed to do anything for a certain period of time after the contract ends. Now, that said, once an agent goes on submission with your book, it's kind of dead. The odds are 99.9% against you finding another agent who would sub that same book. But occasionally there are agents who will sub a book that has been subbed poorly by another agent, but then there are those clauses that preclude them from doing that. But there might also be clauses in the contract about submitting any book, even a book that they haven't touched or submitted. Standard, I'm not a contract person. I'd say that if the clause is 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, even 120 days, that's nothing to worry about. But if you see something in your contract that is like, you can't query other agents or submit anything for 6 months or a year, you might be in a bad contract, and you're going to have to strategize how to get out of that relationship. But man, have I gone, I won't say off topic, but it's like I veered us off a cliff and we're kind of hanging off the edge there. But that is the worst case scenario. And in fact, when things aren't working out with your agent is a topic for a whole other video. But generally on submission, keep your chin up. Try to keep positive and, roll with the punches. It's rough. Things are completely out of your control in so many ways. You are subject to the whims of a very weird industry. Generally speaking, you should always give your agent, the benefit of the doubt, and don't assume the worst. Don't assume the worst in general. Even if you've got a super agent and you don't question your agent's skills at all, don't assume that editors are out to get you or, everyone hates you. It's a business. It's a weird business. It's all about taste and fit and timing and the market. But those are my top tips for surviving submission. It's all about finding your people and working on something else and distracting yourself and trying to stay positive. I hope this was helpful. If you are currently in the throes of submission, my condolences. I have been there. I'm rooting for you. Drop any questions or comments down below. If you liked this video, I'd love a thumbs up. It lets me know what kind of videos I should be making for this channel. If you liked this, I am always appreciative of a subscribe, and if you hit the notification bell, it will tell you when I post new videos. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, happy writing, and in this case, good luck on submission.